So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are going to look at the life of Nimbarkacharya, whose appearance day was yesterday. And who is he? He's head of one of the four sampradayas. Now, there are four authorized sampradayas in Kali Yuga, and they are Ramanujacharya Sampradaya, Nimbarkacharya is a sampradaya, and then you got Madhvacharya Sampradaya, and then we also have the what's the fourth one? Just one second. Vishnu Swami's Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya. So the official names of the Sampradaya: Rudra Sampradaya, Shri Sampradaya, Four Kumara Sampradaya, and Brahma Sampradaya. So this is the timeline. After Krishna left, Kali Yuga entered. So the Iron Age began, and it was the time of irreligiosity increasing significantly. Buddha appeared 2005 years ago to stop the Brahmins misusing the Vedas and doing lots and lots of animal sacrifices. So he put a stop to all that. And then Shankaracharya came 1,000 years ago, and he stopped the rising stem of Buddhism. Buddhism basically is atheistic religion, because Buddha dismissed the Vedas and more on went to the path of good behavior, trying to avoid any connection with God, really. And then Shankaracharya came, he established the Vedas, but he established also the impersonal form of the Lord, the Brahmajyoti, or basically that God can be worshipped in his impersonal form. One can become God by merging into him. And then we had the various sampradayas which arrived. 600 years, 600 AD was Vishnu Swami, and then Ramanujacharya came 400 years later. And then we had the four Kumaras and Nimbarkacharya, and his is the appearance day we are celebrating today. Madhvacharya came after, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who actually combines all four sampradayas and brings them, gives them all authenticity. And then we're very fortunate to have Srila Prabhupada, who spread it all around the world. So these are good comparison of the four sampradayas, which are stated above here. And then we have the fifth, which is the Gaudiya Sampradaya, which sort of, as I said, combines all four, although primarily follows the Brahma Madhav model. The deities of the Rudra Sampradaya, Krishna, and the Shringa, four Kumaras is Krishna, and the Shri Sampradaya, Ramanuja Sampradaya is Vishnu and Ram. The Madhava Sampradaya is mainly Vishnu, and then the Gaudiya is mainly Krishna's form, Radha Krishna. And the philosophies are very varied. Rudra is purified monism. Four Kumaras is both monism and dualism. They call it Dvaita Dvaita. Vashisht Advaita is specific monism, Sri Sampradaya, and purified dualism is Dvaita. Basically, this is how they are approaching their connection to God. So monism basically is that we are one with God, and dualism is where we are separate from God, although the best explanation of that philosophy is given by Chaitanya, Advaita Abheda Tattva, which is Chaitanya Abheda Tattva, which is inconceivable oneness and difference at the same time. So yes, we are one with the Lord because we have the same qualities in very tiny quantity, but we are separate at the same time because we are very tiny. And that it gives the idea that we're both within the monism and within the dualism. So you're not rejecting either, right? Embracing both. Different transcendental moods of the devotees, according to the sampradayas. There's parental, friendship, and conjugal in Rudra, parent, and the same in four Kumaras. But the Sri Sampradaya is mainly servant or parent, and the Madhava Sampradaya is mainly just servant. But the Gaudiya is all the five types of moods come in, including the neutrality, servant, friend, parental, and conjugal. And this is interesting picture because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sort of aligns all four of these sampradayas. Okay, accurate biographies are difficult to find for Nimbarkacharya, yet authorities agree that Sri Nimbarkacharya preached Krishna consciousness about 300 years before the advent of Mahaprabhu. Born in the modern Murgarapatam in the southern Dravidian province, he was the son of Aruni and Jayanti, a very pious Brahmin couple of the Tailanga order. Nimbarkacharya was an ascetic of the Tridandi order, so he took sannyas, and he wrote many books according to Dvaita philosophy, which is simultaneously one and duality. How does Chaitanya's differ? Is a bit about achintya, inconceivable, very difficult for us to understand. He lived most of his devotional life at a place called Nimbargram near Govardhan at Vrindavan. While at Nimbargram, he defeated a great Jain Pandit in a discussion. Thank you, Dani. The Jains had refused to dine with him, saying that the sun had already set and he would not take any food. So this is a sort of a principle that Jain people follow. Once the sun sets, they don't eat. At this, Nimbarkacharya, by his own potency, made the sun appear from a nimba tree, and the astonished Jain accepted his hospitality. It is said that his name, Nimbaditya, has been derived from this miracle of Aditya or Akka, meaning sun from a nimba tree. Once in a village near the forest of Bilva Paksha in Naudu, a group of Brahmins came to engage in the worship of Lord Shiva. Just as Lord Vishnu is very much pleased when he is offered the leaves of his most beloved Tulsi, so Lord Shiva is pleased by offering of leaves from the Bilva or Bail tree. Thus the Brahmins worship Lord Shiva by offering Bilva leaves for a period of 1 fortnight and satisfy Lord Shiva greatly. Among those Brahmins was one whose name was Nimbarka. He had been particularly attentive in his worship of Lord Shiva. Being specially pleased with Nimbarka's devotion, Lord Shiva personally appeared to him and said, Nimbarka, at the edge of this village is a sacred Bail forest. There in that forest, the 4 Kumaras are absorbed in meditation. By their mercy, you will receive transcendental knowledge, for they are your spiritual masters, and by rendering service unto them, you will receive all that is of value. After saying this, Lord Shiva disappeared. Nimbarka immediately went to that place, and with great determination, he searched for the 4 Kumaras in every direction, until he finally found them, shining as brilliantly as the sun. They were seated on a very beautiful natural platform beneath a tree, and they appeared like fire blazing on an altar. They were all very young, seeming not to be more than 5 years in age, but they appeared most noble in character as they sat there naked, wrapped in meditation. Nimbarka was so excited that he cried out, Hare Krishna. This sudden sound startled the 4 brothers, breaking their meditation. Opening their eyes, they saw before them the blissful form of an ideal devotee. And with great pleasure, they embraced Nimbarka, one after another. And they asked, "Who are you? Why have you come here? We are certainly ready to answer all your prayers." Nimbarka fell at the feet of the four brothers like a rod, and with great humility he introduced himself. With a sweet smile on his face, Sanat Kumar then said, "The all merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing that Kali Yuga will be extremely troublesome for the living entities, resolved to propagate devotional service himself. With this goal in mind, he has empowered four personalities with devotion and sent them into this world to preach. Ramanuja, Madhava, and Vishnu Swami are three, and you are the fourth of these great souls." Lakshmi accepted, that's Shri, accepted Ramanuja as a disciple, so Shri Sampradaya. Brahma accepted Madhav, that's the Madhav Brahma Madhav Sampradaya. Rudra accepted Vishnu Swami, so that's Shiva accepted Vishnu Swami, so that's the Rudra Sampradaya. Meeting you today, we have the good fortune of being able to instruct you. That is our intention. Previously, we were engaged in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, but by the causeless mercy of Lord Vishnu, we have been relieved of this sinful activity. Since I have realized that it is essential to preach pure devotional service, I have composed a literary work entitled Sanat Kumar Samhita. So we actually refer to this fair bit, especially when it comes to the Brahma, the Gayatri Mantra. Sanat Kumar Samhita is very famous. There's a lot of amazing instructions in that book. After taking initiation from me, you should follow the instructions I have set forth therein. Nimbarka was greatly enlivened at the prospect of taking initiation. He immediately ran to take bath in the Ganga. After this, he quickly returned and prostrated himself once more before the effulgent brothers. And he said, "O deliverer of the fallen, please deliver this low-born rascal." The four Kumars gave him the Radha Krishna mantra and instructed him in the method of worshipping Radha and Krishna with the sentiment of great love called Bhav Marg. In that sacred Bail forest, Nimbarka began to worship Shri Radha and Krishna according to Sanat Kumar's Samhita, and he chanted the mantra they had given him. Very soon, Radha and Krishna revealed themselves to Nimbarka. They stood before him, spreading an effulgence which illuminated all directions. In sweet voices, they addressed him thus: "Nimbarka, you are very fortunate." So this is Radha and Krishna. "For you have performed sadhana in Shri Navadvip. We both combine and assume one form as the son of Sachi." At that moment, Radha and Krishna combined and displayed their form of Gauranga. So a lot of people say that, who is this Gauranga? Who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? They don't necessarily believe that he is Radha and Krishna themselves. So here we can see they reveal themselves to Nimbarkacharya. Beholding this splendid vision, Nimbarka began to tremble. Never have I seen or heard of such a form at any time. So this Gauranga form is hidden avatar. He doesn't advertise himself. And there are few references in the scriptures, but not that many. But these references are key because they actually give the true understanding of who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. And even in the Vishnu Sahasranam, in I think 3 or 4 places, Lord Chaitanya is described. Lord Gauranga then said, "Keep this form which I shall show you a secret for the time being. Just preach about devotional service in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, for I gain great satisfaction from this. When I make my appearance and perform my educational pastimes, you will also appear. Taking birth in Kashmir as a great Pandit, you will tour all over India, defeating all opposition. Your reputation and learning will be celebrated everywhere, and you will be known as Keshava Kashmiri." While wandering in Sri Navadvip, you will come to Sri Mayapur. Simply by hearing your name, all the great Pandits of Navadvip will flee. So this prediction has come true because he was the foremost debater of philosophy. And he'd already conquered all of the scholars in India, in Bharat. But somebody said to him, well, you haven't really done that because you haven't gone to Navadvip. Navadvip is the center of learning. So Keshava Kashmiri, he went to Navadvip. And when he made his visit, everybody disappeared. They left only Nimai there to face him. Nimai was young. And they thought, if he gets defeated, it doesn't matter, he's only a little boy. But if we get defeated, there'll be a big loss to Navadvip. So anyway, intoxicated with scholastic pride, I will take pleasure in defeating you. However, by the mercy of Saraswati, the goddess of learning, you will realize my true identity. So what happened? Keshava Kashmiri, he challenged Nimai to a debate. And he said, I will now recite, I think it was 64 verses, glorifying Ganga. And off the top of his head, he started to glorify Ganga with these amazing verses. And at the end, he said to Keshava Kashmiri, Nimai, what do you think? And Nimai said, very nice. You're a real expert. Who can defeat you? But there's one verse where I was just wondering whether this is correct. So when he was quoting those verses, it just said that it was so fast. It was like a hurricane was blowing through. But somehow Nimai, of course being God, memorized one of the verses and quoted it back to him and pointed out mistakes of grammar in those verses, of Sanskrit grammar. And Saraswati, and Keshava Kashmiri was devastated. He thought, how? Firstly, how did he manage to memorize one verse? I was quoting it so quick. Secondly, how did I make mistakes? How is that possible? So he went home defeated. And in the middle of the night, he woke up. Or Mother Saraswati appeared to him because he was praying, how is this defeat happened to me? And she revealed to him, don't worry. You've been defeated by the Supreme Lord himself. Go and take shelter of him. Giving up your false pride, you will take shelter of me and I will reward you with the supreme gift of loving devotional service and will again dispatch you to preach. Thus, you can satisfy me by preaching the philosophy of Dvaita Advaita. Keep my identity a secret. In the future, when I begin my Sankirtan movement, I will personally preach, taking the essence of your philosophy and the philosophies of Madhava, Ramanuja, and Vishnu Swami. So this is all magnificently predicted by Gauranga. And actually, that's what happened. From you, Nimbarka, I will take two important principles. The necessity of taking shelter of Srimati Radharani, the high esteem of Braj Gopi's love for Krishna. Gauranga then disappeared after instructing Nimbarka. Shedding tears of ecstasy, Nimbarka left Navadvip to begin his preaching mission. In Chaitanya Leela, Nimbarka appeared as Keshava Kashmiri and received love of Godhead directly from Nimai. So the source of this is the Sri Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. There are striking similarities between the Gaudiyas and the Nimbarkas. The followers of Nimbarka accept 6 forms of surrender, which are accepting things favorable for discharging bhakti, rejecting things unfavorable, having firm faith in the Lord's protection, feeling exclusive dependency on the Lord's mercy, having no interest separate from the interest of the Lord, and finally, feeling oneself meek and humble. So these are really nice. They practice the 9 limbs of bhakti. Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, remembering, Vishnu Smaranam, serving the Lord's lotus feet, Padasevam, daily worship, Archanam, praying, Vandanam, executing orders, Dasyam, serving as a friend, Sakyam, and Atman Nivedam, complete surrender. This is Prahlad Maharaj's prayer to in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran. They believe in Das Mula, the cardinal points of Gaudiya philosophy, 10 cardinal points. Vedas are the principal scriptural evidence which give these 9 principles, which are going to be given now. Krishna is the supreme, absolute truth. Krishna is omnipotent. He's the fountainhead of all relationships and love. Living entities are separated parts and parcels. The jiva, being marginal energy, may come under the sway of material energy. The jiva in the liberated condition is free of the influence of material nature. And the jiva is simultaneously one and different from the Supreme Lord. That's the Dvaita, Advaita. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu adds Achintya, which means inconceivable, can't understand it. 9th, pure devotional service is the living entity's occupation and means. So this is really very instructive for us to understand that this is actually our philosophy as well. It's also the philosophy of Nimbarkacharya. Oh, number 10, pure love of Krishna is the living entity's ultimate goal. Prema Bhakti. So how do they also, what do they worship and what do the Gaudiyas worship? They all worship Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. They worship Srimati Radharani as the topmost devotee. They accept the gopis' love for Krishna as supreme. With beads, bhajan and kirtan, the Nimbarkacharya chant their version of Maha Mantra. And they will chant it a little differently. Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shyam, Shyam Shyam, Radhe Radhe. So that's their mantra. The same, Hare Krishna is exactly the same, no difference. In Vrindavan, about 1 mile from Govardhan, there is a village of Nimbagram, named after Nimbarkacharya, who lived there from childhood and later performed bhajan there. Many of Radha Krishna's pastime places in Vrindavan are now maintained by the Nimbak sect. In Mathura, Vrindavan, innumerable devotees follow Nimbarkacharya's path of bhakti. The Sriji Mandir, just off Loi Bazaar in Vrindavan, serves as the center of Nimbarkacharya's sampradaya. His most famous works, Vedanta Parijat Shaurabh, this is the commentary on the Vedas. If a Acharya has not done a commentary on the Vedas, he's not accepted as a Acharya. Sadachar Prakash, a treatise on Karmakand. And what is Karmakand? This is where it's like a business transaction. The devotee will serve the devatas, promising worship, and they will demand something from the devatas. I want this, I'll do this, you give me this. It's a business transaction. And there's no bhakti involved because the worshipper wants something and the worshipped can't really give it because ultimately it all comes from the Supreme Personality of God anyway. Gita Bhasya, commentary on Bhagavad Gita. Rahasya Sodasi, that's the explanation of Shri Gopal mantra. This Gopal mantra is part of the Gayatri mantra. Again, we use some of the explanations in this Rahasya Sodasi to understand the Gopal mantra. Krishna Stavaraj, establishing the supreme position of Krishna. Prapana Kalpa Vali, explanation of Mukunda mantra. Not sure what that is. I haven't come across that. Pratasmarana Shotam, a devotional poem. Kamadenu Das Sloki, 10 nectarine verses about Radha and Krishna. So what are the differences between the Gaudiyas and the Nimbarkacharyas? Nimbakas. The sweet devotional sentiment of the Manjaris following their Saika Srimati Radharani Radhadasyam is unique in Gaudiya Vaishnavism and the highest of everything ever aspired by sadhaka. This mood is not practiced by any other sampradaya. What does that mean? So the Manjaris are the assistants to the gopis. And the gopis are a little older in the age, they may be between 13 and 16. That's the eternal age. But the Manjaris, they're younger. They're like 7, 8, like that. Maybe 9 at the most. And that's the eternal age. And they are able to serve Radha and Krishna to the fullest extent, even more than the gopis. And the gopis are like the teachers of the Manjaris, but yet the Manjaris have access to Radha Krishna's pastime, which even the gopis don't have. The reason being the gopis are a little older, so Radha and Krishna is a little bit sometimes maybe a little shy to engage in their pastimes in front of the gopis. But they're not shy of the Manjaris because the Manjaris are very young, very little. So the Manjaris are able to experience devotional ecstasies even more beyond the gopis. Hence why this devotional sentiments of the Manjaris is the highest mood that one can develop within the spiritual realm. And that's what the Gaudiya, most of our acharyas are Manjaris in the spiritual world. So, what did he take from all these sampradayas? Gauranga took 2 teachings from each of the sampradayas. This is how he combines them or reconciles them. So from the Sri Sampradaya, he took the unalloyed devotional service free from karma and jnana, which basically means in doing devotional service without any motivation. Service to the devotees. Sri Sampradaya is very famous. Ramanujacharya is very famous for Vaishnava Seva. Brahma Sampradaya, from the Madhvacharya, they took the defeat of the Mayavad philosophy. Madhvacharya was the only one of the 4 Sampradayas that has completely destroyed Mayavad philosophy. Mayavad philosophy basically says, I can merge with God. And this is where Madhvacharya was extremely strong, say, in disputing that fact, that premise. Rather. Worship of Krishna. The Rudra Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami, total dependence on Krishna in the path of spontaneous bhakti. And from Nimbarkacharya, we've already said this, exclusive shelter of Radha and the exalted love of gopis for Krishna. So that's it. That's Nimbarkacharya. Nimbarkacharya ki jai. Any questions? Any comments? Anybody like to ask anything or contribute anything that you'd heard about Nimbarkacharya? He's very, very famous in India, especially in Vrindavan. And they have a very special tilak. Actually, I'm not sure if we've got that. Let me see if we've got that. No, I've got that. Okay, if there's nothing else, we can stop there. Nimbarkacharya ki jai.